Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, September 16th, 2020, Dars highlights. The major theme for this Dars was accessing the heart. The Shaykh says, your worship with your body on the external plane occurs through the limbs. Every limb of your body must be worshipful, and its worship must be a point of access to your heart. Each limb that you possess must bring you to your heart. A limb that does not bring you to your heart is deficient and imperfect. This isn't just some theoretical lecture. I'm not giving a class on linguistics here. I'm talking about Fajr, the 2 rak'ahs of Sunnah before Fajr, Subh, the Fard, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, the 5 canonical prayers. I'm talking about the yearly alms tax, the zakat, on your yearly capital, as per the instructions of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, a month of refraining from food and drink, and a quest for Laylatul Qadr during Ramadan, and finally the 5th pillar and the final pillar, entering into God's house. Bringing these 5 pillars together that are imposed upon you and upon your limbs. If after all of this, these 5 pillars do not open a door to your heart, then the worship on your limbs or your worshipping limbs are deficient and your worship is dry. In wayfaring, that's the equivalent of abandoning the prayer altogether. Or it's like heading towards a mosque but never entering into it. It's like living near a mosque and not knowing who the imam of that mosque is. You have to work on practicing and perfecting the movements of your limbs, of your body, in order to open your closed heart. What you do, what you say, what you hear, what you dress in has to be in full conformity with the Sunnah of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. It's Sharia and Haqiqah. Your heart is the closest mosque to you, and yet you've never sat inside it. You've never faced the Qibla of al-Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam within that heart. This is why the Quran proclaims the one who comes to God with a sound heart. Man atallaha biqalbin salim. You have to purify it. You have to clean it of its impurities. And then a light must shine within it. There must be a lamp inside that heart so that this mosque becomes luminous. You enter into it in anticipation of becoming elevated, of rif'ah, and being welcomed into the everlasting presence, hadratul khulud. Otherwise, there's caprice in your heart, and there's deviation within it from a shaitan. So seek access to your heart. It's closer to you. You first take bay'ah. You formally swear the oath of allegiance. This bay'ah is the permission for elevation, idhn rif'ah. It brings to you, or it gives you access to baytul rif'ah, the home of elevation, the elevated abode. This brings you closer to elevation and to a status with your Lord. So close your eyes now, focus at the center, and seek the nur, having worked on all of your limbs. The rif'ah, this elevation that we speak of, it does not belong to you. It's not yours. It comes from God by virtue of a sound heart that has been given idhn, permission, for elevation, for rif'ah. Nothing else in this world, in the heavens and in the earth, can embrace the Lord except for the sound heart of a believer. It's an exalted house. It's the Baytul Marfu'. It's the elevated home. Your heart is the throne for the name Allah, just as the divine throne is the throne for the name Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahman mounts the throne. Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa. And Allah mounts the heart of the believer. Allah has a throne, and that's your heart, the heart of the believing servant. The problem is that you've turned your face away from this heart. You've only worked on the receptacle, the qalib. You haven't worked on the heart itself. And so the heart generates rust. You've turned away from it. You've focused elsewhere. You work on the receptacle. You've turned your back to the heart. You stopped cleaning it. And now it's time to purify it. And you do so with the invocation, with dhikr. The heart of the servant of God, who is a worshipper, rusts despite the prayer, the fast, and the zakat. And the polish of that heart, jala'ul dhikr, jala'ul qalb, is the dhikr, is the invocation. When a murid stops invoking, he must not say, wait, why don't I see Nurullah? When a murid is not in conformity with the sunnah. The answer is because you're not an invoker. You're not a dhakir. We've received you, we've welcomed you, we've given you permission for elevation, and we've done so because we know the pathways that lead to the heart. Moreover, we know the pathways of the heart within the heart, and we know the pathways, the masalik, by which or through which you can ascend to the secret of your Lord. But I swear to God that you will attain nothing of the path unless you serve your heart, unless you're a servant of your heart, one who cleans it. If you don't serve it, if you don't work on it, you can help others. Whatever you do, your najasa, you become ritual impurity, and you spread that around as well. The heart is purified by none other than dhikrullah. And before receiving this permission that you receive through the bay'ah, it's impossible to shine it in this manner that we speak of. And this I say on the authority of the verse, في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع. In homes, God has given permission for them to be elevated and for His name to be invoked therein. In other words, you need idhn, you need the permission. When you find the permission, you must then invoke. It's not just saying, I have idhn, alhamdulillah, I'm done. 99% of the murids take idhn, and then we tell them how to invoke, what to do. Here's the dhikr that you should invoke. We transcribe and transmit the invocations for them, but they don't want to. The idhn is there, but the dhikr is absent. Idhn present, dhikr absent, therefore there's no connection, there's no love. All there is pure ignorance. So face the qibla, separate yourself from the dunya, divorce it, and divorce the delimitations of your intellect, and God will open His home to you. Where? To the left or to the right? The opening of God's home, of Baytullah, within your heart. This futha is within the first heaven. It's above. Don't imagine that it opens somewhere lowly. Without elevation, the heart does not open. And the Shaykh's idhn that you receive is in and of itself al-rif'a, the elevation. And I say this, and you're going to criticize me, but I'll say it nonetheless. When I say I give you idhn to invoke the name, or idhn for invocation, for istighfar, you receive it from a Shaykh who has idhn from Allah and al-Mustafa alayhi salatu salam, and I've folded 500 years on your path. This idhn that I'm speaking of, I'm not speaking of those who claim to have wilaya with no wilaya. When the Shaykh raises his hand and shows you his palm as if to greet you or to welcome you, with the intention of giving you permission, idhn, for elevation, for rif'a, know that he has folded 500 years of your journey. If you are among those who are receptive, min ahli talaqi, then you gain the first heaven, you gain that station. This idhn that you receive in bay'ah rents apart the first covering of the heart. The heart itself has many coverings. Just like the blessed tree the low tree of the furthest boundary, as sidra. It has many coverings, many veils. The veils of the sidra are the 7 heavens and the 7 earths. Your ascent from heaven to heaven is your entrance upon the door of al-Baytul Ma'mur. You ascend from heaven to heaven, seeking entrance into the inhabited home, al-Baytul Ma'mur, wherein 70,000 angels enter daily without ever leaving it. When that sky is rent asunder, beyond the 7th heaven in al-Baytul Ma'mur, there is no return whatsoever. From there you enter into the beatific vision. Before that, however, from the 1st to the 6th heaven, there is still the possibility of falling back. On the path, there are 2 types of flaws, a flaw of a Shaykh and a flaw of a Murid. The aib of the Shaykh, the flaw of the Shaykh, is to claim what he doesn't possess, to claim to be a Shaykh, a master of the path, imagining that he's a Shaykh because he's inherited his status as Shaykh from his family. But wilaya is an inheritance not passed through the family. It's an inheritance from Allah and from Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. When the Murid enters upon the Wali, they enter wanting to work on their faith, on Iman. They don't enter upon the Wali to begin perfecting their Islam, their submission. If you want to work on that, go to the scholars, go to the Imams. But when you enter upon the Wali, you're entering into the level of faith within the heart. Now, the flaw of the Murid is to take idhn, to take permission from the Wali without doing dhikr, without invocation. The movement of the limbs, your perfection of your worship must have happened before you enter upon the Wali. You don't know what the Shaykh means. You don't know what a nurturing, training Shaykh, a Shaykh of training, an adib, a murabbi, what that means. What's a guide, what's a murshid. You've perfected the outward practices. And now he's teaching you to pray once again and to perform your ablutions once again. But now you're doing it with the eye of the heart. Al-ayn al-qalbiyya. Why? Because you're searching for soundness of the heart. Salamatul qalb. And soundness of the heart is contingent upon soundness of the limbs. And you need a heart that can be receptive of this flow of the sarayan from the Shaykh. Your heart was in a state of ruin, of kharab. The shayatin, the devils, live within it. Where do shaitans live? And jinn? They live in ruins. If one day your nafs were to ask you, where is the dwelling place of a shaitan, of the shayatin, the devils? Remember the answer that I'm telling you. The devils, the shayatin, they dwell in ruinous abodes, al-Karkari, al-Kharab, abandoned homes. That's your heart. Your heart is ruinous. It's in a state of ruins. It's a dwelling place of a shayatin. The Messenger ﷺ says, Shaitan flows through the blood veins of the human being. Your alleyways, your capsules, your veins, they are highways for a shayatin. And their home base that controls that network of passageways within you is the heart. The streets are abandoned, the heart is ruinous, and you're a maskan, you're a place of dwelling, an abode for the shayatin. Within you they play as they wish, and they roam therein just as they please. It's not a question of saying, oh, alhamdulillah, I saw a star. Oh, alhamdulillah, I saw a rectangle, Shaykh. It's about accessing your heart and taking the heart as your carpet and prostrating therein. A prostration under the shadow of the throne of the All-Merciful. Your heart is dhillu arsh ar-Rahman, the shadow of the throne of the All-Merciful. That's what a sound heart is. Not like yours. Yours is pitch dark. The nur in and of itself is a shadow of God's throne. And yet, you think you're so smart. Show me a better definition of faith. A more exalted definition, a more accurate definition of what faith is than what the Nabi ﷺ says. He says, Al-Iman, faith, is a light that increases and decreases with good deeds. What you say is faith is darkness, and darkness is faith. And nur is a mass from the shayatin. I ask you to place my words in your heart and ask yourself, are you among the people of Islam, practicing the pillars with meticulous perfection? Do you wish to enter into the home of iman, of faith? If so, you need idhn from God, inherited and passed through the Prophet ﷺ and his progeny, because he says, Taraktu fikum, I left among you the book, and Ahlul Bayt, I leave these two inheritances among you till the day of judgment. It's deposited in the Quran and in Ahlul Bayt. If so, then renew your bay'ah to your Lord, to the Messenger, to Ahlul Bayt of the Messenger ﷺ. That's bay'ah. You wish to represent this bay'ah? You can't do it alone. You need the bay'ah of Ahlul Bayt. You need the heir, the warith of this transmission. That's your Shaykh. Once you find the one who has inherited this luminous flow, it's enough for the Shaykh to just show you the door of the heart, to show you the light of Iman, and then to say, go work, go practice, go busy, preoccupy yourself with ibadah. But if you come back and say later, Shaykh, I don't see any nur, that means that you're not among the people of Iman, because it doesn't fall under the definition given by the Prophet ﷺ. What are the pillars of Iman, of faith? To believe in God, His angels, His books, His messengers, the last day, and the measuring out its good and its evil. Iman is not to say, oh, alhamdulillah, I believe in God, alhamdulillah, I believe in His angels, alhamdulillah, I believe in His books, alhamdulillah, I believe in the messengers, alhamdulillah, I believe in the last day, alhamdulillah, I believe in the measuring out, alhamdulillah. The reality of faith is brought together in the statement of the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, faith in Allah is nur, faith in the angels is nur, faith in His books is nur, faith in the last day is nur, faith in the measuring out the good of it and the evil of it is nur. And all of that light comes together in the lamp, in the misbah, in your heart. If you don't see it, then you have to dig an underground passageway, a canal, a nafaq, one that will enable you to access your chest, your breast, your heart. This is how you enter. You need a spherical shaped passageway, a nafaq, and a digging machine to pierce into the earth, because you're the one who's asking for the inner life. You're asking for al-batin. You're asking for divine proximity, al-laduni. So you have to dig. You have to dig into and access that inner chamber. Now you begin to dig. You're entering into the niche, the mishkat. You find it to be a long passageway, nafaq tawil, a very long cavernous passageway or underground tunnel, at the end of which there's a nur, and it's shining. This nur that you see at the end is the light of bay'ah, of your pledge of allegiance. It's the nur of faith. It's qadfatul mawla. It's what has been cast by your Lord into the heart. However, as you approach this light of faith, you begin to notice surrounding that light there are other objects, other things that begin to clutter it. This simply means that your heart is full of worldly attachments and or otherworldly attachments. So you dig this underground canal. You see the light of faith. You approach it, approaching the niche, the mishkat, focusing on the lamp, and you find things around it. This is indicative of the existence of attachments to the dunya or the akhirah within you. Or you dig this canal, and at the end you see a very small lamp, a faraway particle of light. This means that your faith is weak. Your faith is tiny. You're the one who's far and distant. It is close, because He is closer to you than your own jugular vein. Whatever you find, that's the nur that you find. Now you begin heading towards it, and light waves begin to emanate from this lamp. They allude to what is emanating from the house of your Lord. So begin to work on the direction of the heart and access the heart. When you make your ablution to enter into the ritual state of purity, wash your hands and put them into the receptacle of pre-eternity. And then when you purify your mouth, purify the 28 mansions of your own moon that correspond to the 28 teeth in your own mouth, and purify your limbs completely. Now is the time to clean them. God has given you a vessel with which to clean yourself. Clean your nose and begin to smell the smell of paradise, the smell of your Lord. Begin to have a direct fruitional taste of the nose. Begin to smell the smell of Ahlul Bayt. Smell the breath of the All-Merciful, Nafasul Rahman. As the Messenger ﷺ says, I find the breeze or the breath of the All-Merciful hailing from Yemen. That is to say, the Ansar, the helpers who support God's path, were in the Yemen, and the Messenger ﷺ catches a whiff of their scent. Clean your face from the hairline between the ears down to the chin. This face is the face of the moon, of your Lord's light. The Nabi ﷺ would say, so-and-so is like a luminous moon. And the moon of Nabi ﷺ, his face was like a moon, like the sun. Do all of this and enter into the heart and pray 2 cycles of prayer therein. That's all you need. Enter into the heart, pray 2 rak'ahs there. And when you prostrate, you say, Anta kama afnayta ala nafsik. You are just as you have praised yourself, Ya Allah. And revive this sunnah of the prayer in the heart. And you do this by practicing and perfecting your prayers outwardly and inwardly. Prayers that were initially 50 and through Sayyidina Musa returned to 5, corresponding to the 5 limbs that we can purify. And fast your Mondays and Thursdays. Fast the full lunar days, the 13th, 14th and 15th of the month. Turn away from your own distance from Allah. Turn away from your stomach, from your private. Enter into your heart. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Kama sallaita ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Sayyidina Ibrahim. وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد.